Hello, Galaxy. I'm Chris Pirillo, and I'm an expert in being myself. I like sharing my advice, perspectives, opinions, experiences, so on and so forth. But of course, one size definitely does not fit all, so anything that I put out there, you may have to contextualize for your own life. Keep that in mind. I've decided that I'm going to prioritize the questions or advice requests that I get from the community, whether they come in when I'm streaming live on Twitch every night at 6 p.m. or as comments wherever I happen to be posting, whether that's on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or Twitter. And the other day, Matt left a comment. It was very simple, very straightforward. Can you do a video about anger management? Now, I'm not an expert in anything but being myself, and let me tell you, as a human being, I get angry. Getting angry is natural. It's normal. We get angry for a variety of reasons. There is no problem when someone gets angry. That feeling itself, right? The feeling of anger, that emotion. It's when you or how you decide to act upon that anger, where there tends to be a few issues, especially when other people are involved. So a lot of what I'm going to share is based only on my experience being someone who gets angry. In fact, I'm sure you've seen a few of my videos thinking, man, he's angry. I'm not angry. I will say that. I have a personality type that is very intense, very passionate, very engaged. I tend to lean in to conversations. I'm on or I'm off. And right now I'm on. So if it ever seems that I'm angry, I may not be angry. I'm just very intense. That's the best word to use for it. Whether that's nature or nurture, I could not ever decide that answer, nor could anybody. I will say that I have long been surrounded by people who are just as intense, and certainly when they have strong feelings about one topic or another. So I grew up in an environment where we were open about what we happened to be feeling at the time. And that's the perspective that I'm coming in from. Some people did not grow up that way. And if you did not grow up in that type of environment, then I'd imagine that anybody like me may be very overwhelming. That would not surprise me at all. But very often, you may misconstrue someone's intensity as anger. I'm just letting you know. Right now, not angry, just intense. I'm loud. I have the ability to project. It's never been a problem, especially when I was in theater. Sometimes when I raise my voice, I'm not angry. I raise my voice without even thinking that I'm raising my voice. I'm engaged. And I get passionate. But when that personality type gets thrown into the ring with frustration, discontent, sadness, anger can arise. I'm a human being, just like everybody. There's no problem with being angry. It's how you act upon the anger that sometimes becomes the issue. And I will go as far as to say, and we'll get to this in a second, sometimes even though you've done your best to manage your anger, people will try to get a rise out of you. I'll come back to that later. So realize that everyone gets angry. Express it. I think is the next thing that I wanted to say in terms of how I manage my anger. I express it. And I express it by sharing it. I might say, I'm angry. Granted, usually when I'm saying I'm angry, I'm not smiling or smirking. It's like, I'm angry. Every so often, I might be able to say, this really makes me angry. And I might be able to say it in a tone of voice that's not elevated. But I may respond in a more reasonable fashion, especially when I'm feeling agitated. Especially when other things are going on and I haven't had enough breathing room and I'm in a situation where I have to respond. Because if I have a choice, I don't want to respond immediately. If I have a choice. Sometimes I don't have a choice. Sometimes I don't have time. And anything that I might say could come across as angry. Even though I can tell you it's not. And sometimes I am angry, at which point I will tell you I'm angry. Or I will express it in that way. I will express my frustration. And some decide not to do that. I believe you're better off expressing your feelings when you're having them. Don't sit on them. Don't let them bubble up. Don't let them fester. Because what'll happen is you'll do that. And you'll internalize something that makes you angry. Right? Have you done that? Have you seen anybody do? I don't do that. I don't understand that. Because what'll happen is that'll just bubble up and it'll fester. It'll eat away at you. And then something else happens, like a completely disconnected incident. Someone says something, right? and it just sets you up. Blah, 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 blah. Whoa, okay, dude. Wow, there's something going on there. Well, it's because you may have let something fester. You didn't process it. I've talked about this before, too. If you're feeling something, you got to process it, baby. Don't let it stick inside you. Because the thing is that no one can see what's inside you. Only you can see what's inside you. So it's your responsibility. Your responsibility and your responsibility alone to process that anger. Okay? Especially when you're feeling it. Because let me tell you, the longer you hold on to it, the angrier you're going to get because you haven't expressed it. And it's going to leak out of your ears if you're not careful. Maybe not physically. I don't know if I've ever seen that manifest itself, but I think you know what I'm talking about, right? You'll explode because you didn't process your anger. Or there's something else going on that you haven't been able to put your finger on. I'm not even saying you have to identify why you're angry. You're angry. Something's going on. But you need to process it. All the more reason to process it by talking to someone, by writing something down, by stepping away. We've talked about this kind of thing before in a different scenario. But remember, the next thing, I've got a little list here. This is not always easy to remember, but you're in control of yourself. And I say this is not easy to remember because sometimes you let your emotions get the best of you. And sometimes that's not easy when it's with another person. Because that other person may know which buttons to push. And they poke, 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 and they poke. And even when you're trying to control yourself and control how you respond, they poke, and they poke, and they poke, and they poke. And the less you give them the satisfaction of responding and reacting, they poke harder. And they hit the below the belt even more. I mean, how much below the belt can you... I mean, they're down to your toes. They're hitting so below the belt. Just to get a reaction, right? And it's more and more difficult to control yourself... to control what you say in those moments. But you're always in control of yourself. Even when someone else gets the best of you. And they're doing that... I'm telling you, what it's felt like in the past, people do that, I feel, because they're trying to get a response out of you, just to either not necessarily make themselves feel better about the situation, but basically prove that you're just as bad as they are. And I don't want to play. I never like playing that game. It's a game. That's like high school BS, and some adults play it constantly. So you're in control of yourself. You're in control of how you respond. It doesn't mean you're going to hit 100, or what is it, 1,000? I'm really bad at sports. You're never going to be 100% perfect, but you're still in control of yourself. So in that, and in saying that, it leads me to another point. In being in control of yourself, think before you react. Do your best. Sometimes you don't have time to think before you react. Sometimes you're just reacting. And there are moments that I certainly react. And I tend to be, as much as I'm a logical person, I have emotions too. I have feelings. I have a beating heart. I really don't like it when people call... I've been called heartless before, which is dehumanizing at best. So I know that if I have time, I'm going to think it through, still be upset, but the reaction won't be as visceral, right? It won't be as... I won't be as caught up in that emotion and let the emotion take over. I have to do my best to maintain a decorum, like control over myself. But again, there are moments. And believe me, this is a lifelong process. I can tell you, I can't prove this, but I used to be worse with a lot of this stuff than I am now. Do I think I'm great now? I'm not saying that. I'm definitely not. I'm definitely not great. I'm doing my best, and I struggle with that. But this is how you're asking me how I manage anger. That's what I can speak to, being an expert and having done this to this point. But I try to think before I react. Is this the time? Is this the place? What do I need to say in this moment that deserves the weight, the gravity? There have been moments where I'll be not angry, not upset, but stern in a response, right? Like, no, like very sharp, no, I'm not angry, I'm not upset, this is my boundary. That's a boundary. And there's certain boundaries that I have that I'm not going to cede control on. Like, no, that's a boundary. And that's usually where, like, I won't get to the point of being angry if I know where my boundary is. Like, you're crossing a line. You're crossing a boundary. This is not acceptable. It's not acceptable behavior. It's not an acceptable, action. It's not an acceptable... I know my boundaries. And so when I have that time to think, and I have that boundary, then I automatically go to, that's my boundary, no. See, I got no problem saying no. No. I have no problem calling out a certain action or behavior, certainly in that moment. Like, no. Not gonna fly. You know, in those moments, I actually separate myself from feelings and emotions so that logic can take over, so that I don't lose control of myself. Or, in certain situations, not lose control of the situation. And try to communicate very clearly what my expectations are. Comes down to communication. Comes down to being able to process it and move through it. So, it's not always easy, but just think before you react if you have the time. If not, know where your boundaries are. When you're caught up in anger, you know, you may be inclined to lash out at other people. And that's bad. And I mean lash out. Like, just, you know, they didn't do anything wrong necessarily. Now, if they stepped over your boundary, if they did something to violate trust or your confidence, or, you know, they did something that was just unacceptable, like, flat out. Something that's just unacceptable, not just to you, but certainly to any reasonable adult. Unacceptable. I mean, we're not talking about kids. We're talking about being adults, right? I mean, kids, you've got to teach them how to regulate their emotions, and anger is being one of them. And with kids, you got to talk them through it. Like, all right, what are you upset about? Okay, let's talk it out. I'm listening. I understand you. If we want to try to solve this problem, so let's try to think about it. We need to breathe. We need the moment. So sometimes you don't want to do that to another adult, maybe, because sometimes they will see that as patronizing. But some adults seemingly, in my experience, handle situations better in those moments when they're angry. Some, in my experience. So in those times where you're not feeling like the situation's going well, you're getting angrier and angrier, try to stay on topic. Focus on maybe not your anger, but the reason why your anger was incited, right? The reason why you feel angry, you feel frustrated, you feel mad, right? Those are normal feelings. They're normal. It's how we act upon them. So when you know why, you can get to addressing why, or at least expressing why. With all the more reason you need to process. Can't put it off. I know you keep trying. I know you keep coming up with excuses, but it won't work. Let me put it this way. It will not work with me. So stay on topic. Focus on why and what you can do to move swiftly to a resolution. Can we not do this again? Look, you know, we've gone over this. Please don't put the toilet paper roll facing inward. We don't have a cat. Can we face it out? Thank you, because, you know, it's just a thing. No, I don't get angry about that, by the way. I'm choosing that as something innocuous, okay? As a very simple, you know, an egregious example that, you know, if you're getting angry about that, you may need to get a better handle on yourself, because that's not really something to be angry about. It's more of a fun kind of thing. Even though it is wrong to have the toilet paper rolling, you gotta have it out. That's the only right way. Anyway, stay on topic. Look, this really upsets me. It really frustrates me. Here's why. Can we make a move to pay attention to this detail? If you're going to replace the roll, please have it pointed outward. It's easier to tear off. It's easier to manage. It's blah, blah. Don't veer off topic. This, by the way, could be applied to any argument. Stay on topic. Stay on target. Don't veer off. So you're upset. You're upset because someone did I'm going to stick with this example. Because someone put the toilet paper the wrong way. You put the toilet paper the wrong way. What are you? Your mother was a hamster, and your father smelt of elderberries. Okay, you just crossed the line. You're first of all, that's an ad hominem attack. Second of all, that's not doing anything except you're just ranting and raving with no direction. You're not solving a problem. You're not on topic. Who cared if their mother was a hamster and their father smelt of elderberries? It happens. How is that anywhere near relevant in any argument? Never bring up family in an argument. Ever. Especially if it's not the topic. Ever. Ever. Because if you're trying to avoid, well, anyway, I'm getting off topic. Stay on topic. Stay on topic. Focus on your anger, why you're angry, and move to a resolution swiftly. Because then maybe your anger will be assuaged. Great, you're hearing me, you understand, we're good the next time, great. I'm not upset, not angry, I'm just wanting to make sure we're good on the whole toilet paper, which way it spins thing, even though we all know it's out, not in. You don't curl it in. Who does that? The next thing I would say kind of dovetails with that, especially if you're feeling angry and want to act right now, choose your words and actions very carefully. Very carefully. Choose your words and actions carefully. Not easy to do if you're overcome with emotion. Not if you're living in that anger. Not if you're not thinking straight, if you're letting the emotion take over, which again, you may have had control in the beginning. You may have had full control of yourself. But if you're dealing with somebody else or a situation that is poke, 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 poke. Even when you set a boundary, even when you've tried to what's the word I'm looking for? Calm the situation. You know, that you basically try to level things out, like poke, 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 below the belt, below the body blow, uppercut, I mean, like, not physical. Hopefully, never physical. That's way too far. So choosing your words and your actions carefully, it gets more and more difficult the more and more anger you get. And the more and more someone pushes and pokes and prods you. You may not have been angry in the beginning, but suddenly, because of how someone is approaching a situation with relentlessness, like beyond the pale relentlessness, it gets more and more difficult. All the more time to control your words and actions carefully, because that's what they're looking for. They're looking to get a rise out of you. They're looking to make you angry even if you weren't. I've been in those situations before. I don't like them. I'm not a fan of them. I don't look to engage them. I learned years ago how to handle that, and when that happens, I'm getting to that. First, you got to recognize when someone's poking you. Clearly, they are not ready to be communicated with, right? And it has nothing to do with male, female. Like, you can tell when someone's not in a state of being reasonable or communicative. At which point, you table the discussion. Say, all right, we'll come back. I'll be back. But right now I gotta walk away. I gotta walk away. And the sooner you do that, the better. The moment you feel yourself getting angry, especially with someone or a situation, walk away. That's my number one tip. I probably should have said that at the top. Walk away. I've got them written down. But walk away. Especially if you start seeing them poke you or gaslighting you, right? You know what they're going for. You know what the end game is in this. Walk away. And the worst thing is, those people, and I'm an only expert in being myself. I'm telling you how I have to manage my anger. How I manage my anger. They will poke and poke and poke, and then they'll follow you. Which is the worst thing they could ever do. Because you are trying to diffuse, that's the word I was looking for, diffuse the situation by walking away. That's the reasonable thing to do. It's unreasonable to chase someone who's walking away like that. And I don't mean walk away shouting, blah, 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 blah. Which, you know, hey, I'm guilty of doing. Hey, it happens. But walking away, removing yourself from the situation. If they come in on the attack, then it's on them. Then they want to drag you into the ring, and that's when I do my best to get up and walk away again. I mean, in any circumstance, when I'm feeling like I'm angry, I walk away. I got to get away. That's the first thing I do. As soon as I start feeling it, like, dude, I cannot. Because if I do this, we're not going to go to a good place. Like, this has got to get tabled until we can discuss this. And right now, this is not a discussion. So walking away is important. When you're chased down, got to recognize when someone's poking you, because you know what they're going for, and they're not going to stop until they get it. They won't stop until they get a response from you, which again is more their problem than it is yours. Because the moment they get a response from you, and you know what comes next. Because you're all, dude, I'm just, walking away. I'm trying to stay in control of how I'm responding to this. I feel this way, and you're using I statements. You're saying, this is how I feel. I'm angry because you're coming after me, and I'm trying to walk away so we can at least think about this before this just continues, because I'm trying to keep from exploding here, and I need you to let me keep from exploding, and I'm doing my best to contain that. Poke, 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 poke. Ah! Then they turn around and tell you. You got a face wipe on that one. They turn around and tell you that you have anger management issues after you tried to manage your anger. After you did your best to manage your anger, because you were angry and you walked away, and you told them you were angry and that you would come back, but you couldn't do it right now, and they continued to poke and prod and chase to the point where they got the reaction they wanted, and then it was your fault because it was your anger that they drag out of you, right? That you didn't want because you were trying to keep it in control. You were being reasonable in controlling yourself. You were being reasonable in how you chose to respond. You were being reasonable in walking away, in tabling the discussion, in not hitting below the belt, in staying on topic, in not resorting to just like extremes. And there are people who will do that. And you may start out in a discussion or maybe even an argument where it's fine and you're handling it, but then it goes too far. They just go, they basically cross a line that you didn't even know existed. And then it's like all bets are off. And you didn't walk away soon enough. Again, that was your responsibility to walk away. And by the way, if you're with someone, and this can happen in any situation, work, personal, family, doesn't matter, right? If you don't let someone walk away, you're let them walk away. They'll come back, right? They're not going to leave you, I don't think, unless, I mean, even if they say that may just be an emotional reaction, like, and you've learned over time that they may not do that. It could be that they're so upset and they don't know how to communicate it effectively. It's just been my experience. I'm only an expert in being myself. I'm only telling you what I've learned for myself, right? And how to manage my anger. Because believe you me, I get angry. Because I'm human. But yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to say in terms of how I manage my anger and the situations I find myself in at times, or have found myself in at times. Process it, recognize it, deal with it, be reasonable, stay focused, and don't be afraid to not stay in that moment, especially when you know where it's going to lead. And if someone chases you down, they need to learn where your boundary is. Set a boundary. Like, this is my boundary. Like, I walked away for a reason. And it's not because I don't want to discuss this. I just cannot discuss this right now because I'm getting angrier and angrier by the second, and I am doing everything I can to control myself. Poke, 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 poke. Bah! You have anger management issues. Yeah, that's like, smacking a bear across the face and then getting mauled and then claiming that it was the bear's fault. I'm not saying I'm a bear. I'm just saying you don't kick over a hornet's nest intentionally, especially when that hornet's nest tries walking away from you. And this, by the way, anything I'm sharing right now, I've had a lifetime of relationships. I've had a lifetime of experiences. This has nothing to do with anybody specifically that's in my current orbit, okay? So don't draw any lines, right? I mean, I've had these situations come up before, and I've learned. Like I said, I know more now than I did back then. You can't explain that very easily because only I've had my experience. Only you have had your experience, and hopefully this gives you some direction, at least in terms of how I've managed my anger. You still got to process it. You still got to come back to it. You still got to resolve these problems. But exploding, right, and jumping immediately to certain things, not always easy to control. But you got to remember, you're still in control of yourself, and do your best not to make the situation worse. That goes for everybody. But certainly you, if you're feeling the anger, whatever you can do, don't make the situation intentionally worse. If you have the time, take the time. If you don't, do your best to know what your plan is before you actually run into that problem. As someone who's very passionate, very intense, I understand what it's like to have your intensity confused with anger. I absolutely do. Absolutely do. And I also understand what it's like to have a situation that's beyond your control trying to control yourself in situations that are not in your control. And I know how difficult that is. I know how challenging it is. And unfortunately, when it comes to other people, we're not always on the same page. Best you can do is come to an agreement with the people that you know, the people that you love, and the people that you trust. If only to set the even enemies have a common ground, right? They find terms of engagement. So I mean, the same thing should happen in anything. Like, this is okay. When this happens, I need for us to agree that that's going to happen, because if it doesn't, we're going to continue to run into problems. Like, I have no problem saying any one of these things, because this is how I feel I've grown as someone who didn't know any of this, someone who wasn't taught any of this. Not to say that was a problem that was passed on from generations. And, you know, I've definitely improved my situation, if only for my own reasons. I know which direction I would want to go for myself. And hopefully you do too, because you're going to get angry again. I hope you know what you're going to do next time, so that the next time you get angry, it doesn't have the same outcome that you've had before. And that's something I can tell you over time has definitely improved for me. Absolutely has improved for me. I wish you luck next time you get angry, as long as it's not angry at me. Just take a breather. 10 seconds, whatever. Was it really worth getting angry about with the toilet paper roll thing? I don't know. I'm ending it on a smile.